Hello, I'm Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and in this episode, I want to talk about the importance of having contingency plans for any creative. And before I get into it, I want to encourage you to subscribe if you haven't already done so. That way, you get all the various lessons and episodes that I put out right when I put them out. Thank you if you just did, and thank you if you already were. It truly does mean a lot to me. So, the creative pursuit, as I've said, in terms of everything that I do and the thesis of what I do, is really the idea that if you don't master mental fortitude, you're not really going to find the success you want as an artist, because it takes way more than just talent and skill set to really succeed. I often equate this industry as like a shaking tree. It's just constantly trying to shake you off, and if you can just hold on for dear life, you'll make it. Well, the way to hold on is you have to be very mentally strong. And part of that is always having contingency plans, because inevitably, I don't care what you're doing, even if it's seemingly a solitary act such as fiction writing or painting, things will inevitably go wrong in some way, somewhere. So how do you deal with that is the question. And, each lesson that I try to answer is to offer up different ways to tackle various problems. So, it would be, and just this episode wouldn't work by me answering every contingency, because it's just, not something that I'm able to do in the scope. But by all means, if there are things that you would like to ask me about, please comment down below or hit me up on social media at Svitek, and I'm happy to answer them that way. But overall, it's the idea that plan for contingencies, 1, 2, and 3. And one of the biggest contingencies that you always want to have is, budget something, but then always leave a percentage, usually, in filmmaking, it's 20%, to be able to go over, right? So try to be as frugal as you can, but know that it's probably going to cost you, in the end, 20% more than you budgeted for. And that you're going to have to kind of just be okay with that, right? I mean, in all film budgets, this is not just my own thing. In all film budgets, they literally have contingency, because oftentimes things do go over budgets by the sheer nature of it, right? The creative act usually does. And, startups deal with this all the time and so forth. So, really have that in your mind. I'll give you an example of how I approach this. So I was talking with my friend Jonathan Moulton, and we were talking about a proof of concept that we're working on for what will ideally be my second feature film. And so this proof of concept is like 3 minutes, a representation of this movie. And he's like, hey, I know you will really want to do kind of this technique with the movie. So if we're going to go that, we need to be thinking about this. And I said, 100%, you're right. But as much as I would love to do that, and that means we can kind of not be as detail oriented with this part, because, it's not important to the final quote unquote product. The thing of it is, what I'm aiming for with the final thing might not be something that ultimately someone who's an investor might want to be on board with. Meaning, as of right now, I would love to do a rotoscope animation style film. Someone might not be on board for that. They might want it live action. So for me, it's like I could skip certain parts of the live action version, because I don't necessarily need to worry about that, because it will be animated over and so forth. But for me, someone might say, hey, I'm not on board with the rotoscope thing. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it in live action. So being able to have both versions allows me that ability. I know it's more time consuming, and I know it can be more costly in this scenario for this proof of concept. But at least it allows me the option. And furthermore, if nothing else comes of this, or even if it does, right? I imagine the actors, I know almost guaranteed they're going to want the live action version for their film reels. And so I'd much rather have that, obviously I want that to look as good as it can for them, so that way they have the ability to use it. So that's a version of how I view things and having that contingency. So in essence, I'm creating two things. I'm creating the rotoscope animation version and I'm creating the live action version. And both have to look really good. And that's my contingency. Because I'm looking at the larger whole. So that's just kind of some insight, but overall, part of it is, in general, it's going to take a little bit more time and it's going to cost you more than you think. And you have to be mentally and otherwise prepared for those moments. So that's what I have for you. I hope that it was of help. As I said, feel free to ask me any questions and talk specifics in the comment section or on social media. Thank you. I appreciate you. I'll see you next time.